What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Everyday Struggle with academics Wayno and Nadeska. Now, I know the tone has been very somber on the show for the past few days. We're going through a lot as a country, but at least today we have some positive news to share. So the other three officers who were involved in George Floyd's death have now been arrested, and they're facing charges as well. And the officer who did murder him on camera, Derek Chauvin, his charges have now been bumped up to second-degree murder. So, we're all still tuned in. We're looking for full prosecutions and convictions here. But do you guys feel, a little bit hopeful now that this has happened?
Murderers. I love it. Yeah, I'm glad that all four of them scums were charged. I'm going to be honest with you. I think as we're trying to pursue justice, I do have to say protesting is clearly sending the message that, by the way, this should have happened a long time ago, but I'm glad that it did happen. I'm talking about the arrest. But we got to see if these guys actually get prosecuted. Because what I really think is going to happen, I think them three dudes that they charged late, I think they finna escape, okay? I think they're going to get some nice pensions and go to, a little holiday camp, and we probably just won't hear much about this. And this is why we're going to need consistency and some type of oversight that this whole process of getting justice is, these dudes belong in jail. You get me? They belong in jail serving some hard time. And again, it's a good step till we get to that point. So we still got to wait. It's a long process.
Like this, I am happy that they did get arrested. This is where the real challenge starts. Because, when we think about the law, we think about prosecution, there's always going to be, the side we want to win, and it's another side that fights for them. So, and you know how they get tricky once they get to court. They start bringing up, like Ak said, these three other dudes, they might skate on a lot of different shit that the other guy doesn't. We clearly see this guy on this guy's neck. Now, I think this trial, whenever it happens, is going to determine a whole lot. Because, we've seen this happen before. That's why I'm happy that they went after second degree, because if you push it to first, then you start running yourself into all types of situations where it could be dismissed because you have to prove certain things. But it's definitely a step in the right direction, but we got to wait and see. I don't want to hope too high right now. I'm just happy that they have been arrested.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely just a small step. And you guys are right. Historically speaking, so few cops go to trial for things like this. And even if they do, they say historically speaking, juries are just, they're not prone to convict because they still want to believe that cops are good and that they're here to protect. And of course, some of them are. But I think, the jury can't be insulated from what's going on, right? They're seeing this play out. They've seen the video at this point. So hopefully with everything going on, juries would make the right decision in those cases. So we'll stay tuned.
But let me throw this out immediately. They might want to look at something where there's a special prosecutor, because this is just how that it's kind of you get my back, I get my back system works with the cops and the prosecutors. Pretty much they work hand in hand. So now if they got to prosecute a case against the niggas who are gonna bring them cases later, it's kind of like a conflict of interest. And even though, this whole blue wall or blue shit, whatever the fuck they got going on, where pretty much they just hold each other down better than anybody else in the fucking world, they're also going to look to say, damn, if you guys go that hard on prosecuting these guys, because trust me, most cops actually believe these people are doing their jobs. So they're going to watch how the prosecutor, who they're doing the groundwork to get cases to, are going to prosecute a case against cops. So I just think, if we really care about justice being served, let's get that prosecutor out of there. So whatever DA's office, get that prosecutor out of there, bring an independent prosecutor, or maybe somebody could be appointed by the federal government. But I don't think it'll be in the interest of justice, whatever prosecutor that's going to be on the case now is going to be doing it to the best of their best duty of trying to prosecute that case. You get me?
Mm-hmm. Well, they have the pressure of the whole world watching right now. So hopefully, justice is served here. And, before I get on to my last bit of positive news for today, there's going to be a memorial service for George Floyd today in Minneapolis. There's one coming up this weekend in North Carolina. And then I believe early next week in Houston as well, so people can pay their respects. Now, you guys, I think the last time collectively we remember seeing protests of this magnitude was when Mike Brown was killed in 2014. Things have happened before then, but what happened in Ferguson really set off a wave of events and really fueled the Black Lives Matter movement. So change has been very slow to come to Ferguson. There are some organizers and protesters I met when I was down there who were mysteriously murdered. Some allegedly committed suicide, and those murders and deaths still have not been solved. But Ferguson did just elect their first Black mayor and first woman mayor. Her name is Ella Jones. So I think that's a small victory for Ferguson, and hopefully things move in the right direction and she could help reform the police department down there.
That's wild.
Yeah. So Obama did a roundtable as part of his nonprofit called My Brother's Keeper this week. And so he encouraged people to just stay hopeful, although we're all feeling angry at the moment, and double down on what he said before, that we need to keep protesting because it makes, the people in power uncomfortable. And then we have to vote to translate that into practical solutions and changing laws. So I think some leaders are definitely feeling the pressure, like de Blasio, our mayor here in New York. He's been taking a lot of heat recently. So in New York, there's a civil rights law. It's called Section 50A. So this has been in place for about 44 years, and it basically allows the city to keep any records of police brutality private. So the public never gets access to them, and it protects any violent officers from ever being held accountable. So if there's ever a case where someone sues the police department or something like that, notice they'll settle, but you'll never hear the details of it. The person can't speak about it again. So there's been a lot of pressure to change this law. It's been 44 years, and now he's feeling it so badly that I think this week he said, we need 50A repeal. Let's do that in the month of June. So if that happens, that would be another step.
That's insane, that shit almost sounds like a joke. Seriously, it almost sounds like a joke. It's like, wait a minute, so all of these things that's going on, you said for 58 years this law has been in?
I think it's been about 44 years now. It's been a long time. People have been protesting.
44 years. You know how much shit has happened? I'm just thinking about how many things happened to me from the police, and they've never said, you can't say anything about it after that. That quieting system seems very billionaire Jeffrey Epstein-ish. You know what I'm saying? Trying to quiet people and trying to shut people down from being heard. That's insane. I didn't even know that existed.
I do believe that most of the stuff when it comes to police corruption, I believe all that is Jeffrey Epstein-esque. And just to further expound on that, that's just really you realize that if you get a charge shit, it's kind of black and white with your ass, especially if you're black. You get me? But when it comes to the cops, charges get dropped. You know what I mean? Little deals get worked out. You know what I mean? The charges change from this to this, and details are usually lost in the mix. So I mean, I'm not entirely surprised about that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, just thanks for viewers at home, for you guys to think about when we say we want to keep the momentum of protesting, but we need things to change. And Wayno pointed out earlier that we're not going to change racism overnight. We're not going to change racist cops, but I think people start acting a little bit differently if they know there are serious penalties for this kind of thing. So hopefully more progress. And Ak, you shared the story yesterday after we were talking about how it's only right for labels and, people who profit off of Black culture to start putting up some money to help these social justice organizations. Variety reported that Warner Music Group has announced plans to donate $100 million to social justice organizations. We feel good about this?
I feel good about it.
Do.
Especially that I work for Warner. I feel good about that.
A salute to the Blavatnik family. I believe it's a Russian dude who kind of owns Warner, or at least the music part of it. And I think they needed to step up. They make a shit ton of money, and I was thinking, I was like, if the Weeknd could put up 500,000, the fuck? You tell me that the guys who signed his check, it's like LeBron putting up money, but the NBA owners we ain't got shit. You know what I mean? Don't even make sense. So I'm glad that they're taking steps. And by the way, I'm hoping to see the other labels follow suit as well. So I'm looking at Sony, but Sony is a Asian company, but the music element profits a lot from shit that happens in the U.S. and a lot from Black culture. So I'm looking to see them step up, and of course UMG. So again, this had to happen.
Did y'all see Ben and Jerry's? Salute to Ben and Jerry's. Did y'all see Ben and Jerry's? They went pretty hard online.
Oh, they went hard in the statement, didn't they? Yeah,
they went super hard. It's crazy to see. Just talking about not being silent about white privilege, police brutality, etc., etc. But it's crazy to see how ice cream company goes so hard, and so many other companies like we waiting on their statements. Like James Dolan still hasn't released an official statement from the Knicks or or donated anything.
Wow. Well, some people are still definitely getting it wrong, and I don't know, for some people you wonder if it's better for them to stay silent, although we know that's being complicit. But like Drew Brees, for example, I'm really disturbed by what he said, and surprised. I thought he was a bit more progressive than this. So he was doing an interview with Yahoo Finance where they asked him about how he feels like the NFL should respond to players kneeling during the anthem, and he said he'll never agree with anybody disrespecting the flag of the United States of America or our country. LeBron James, tore him up. He said, "You literally still don't understand why Cap was kneeling on one knee. Has absolutely nothing to do with the disrespect of American flag and our soldiers." So, after getting dragged on the internet, Brees responded on Instagram, apologizing, said, "In speaking with some of you, it breaks my heart to know the pain I have caused. In an attempt to talk about respect, unity, and solidarity centered around the American flag and the national anthem, I made comments that were insensitive and missed the mark."
I'm so tired of apologies. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'm tired of apologies. Like, apologies ain't shit but words. And I feel like all apologies always come once a person's under fire. They never, like, a person never says, "Well, hey, let me learn. Let me figure out why this is going on." They just apologize for their actions prior. Change behavior. Like, I don't care for your apology.
White privilege, and also, it's incredible to me that someone who could study a whole playbook back and front, know every defensive scheme that he could, like, these quarterbacks are smart. It's not just dumbass athletes. That he can't understand that, it's not mutually exclusive. That basically it could be two things. Like, you could still respect this country, but still know things are fundamentally still wrong that you want to change. So not that someone's kneeling means that they're saying fuck this country and fuck the people who fight for this country overseas. No, there's some injustices that are happening, in equities that they're hoping to bring some attention to, and that's it. It's protest. And again, I see a lot of people revisiting the point. Jay was wrong. We ain't past kneeling, okay? Because truth be told, y'all would have wished Cap would have kept kneeling instead of some of the shit that's going on out here. So, like, when you see Drew Brees say that, this is the exact reason why the NFL could never win. They just can't win shit. Because the mentality of most of the people who are in the league and shit, if that's the mentality of the players, imagine what the owners are thinking. You feel me? Yeah. The NFL got a long way to go.
Yeah, and I will say, fuck the national anthem, though. Because, just the national anthem, the original version, stands for something totally different than the one today stands for, So it's like, if a person protests the national anthem, you got to know the history about that song, So we ain't saying fuck the flag, but it's like just turning a blind eye on everything that's going on. It's like it goes to show you, like, oh man, y'all disrespecting the country. I don't think it's not even about just the country being bad. It's just the policies that's put in place. It's like, that's why we're talking about reform and we're talking about change. It's not everything about just the police. Like what Nadeska was saying about what's the thing, Section 58. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like, even with that, it's like that's another thing that's put in place to silence people. A lot of shit has to change, and it's not just police, it's legislation, it's policies, like all these different things got to change.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times we talk about systemic racism, but maybe it just sounds like a blanket statement to people who are not Black, who didn't grow up experiencing those things. So I've seen some really cool illustrations on the internet that break it down to how, they divide up Black communities, how like banks turn down loans, you don't get access to good schools. So, I guess I'll try to also help just on this show what systemic racism actually is, if it still doesn't make sense to you.
You know what's crazy though? It's like real quick, like I didn't grow up, around Jewish people, but I understand what the Holocaust is. I understand what they went through. You know what I mean? Like, I don't minimize their struggle in that sense. So it's like, it's so crazy when people try to say like, oh, I didn't grow up this way or that way. Like, yeah, but you still know what the fuck is going on. You see the news. You see what's happening. That's the shit that always gets on my nerves. It's like, you don't have to grow up in a neighborhood to see how people are treated.
I do want to say what I'm seeing happening now, and by the way, just for even our listeners and really anyone within the sound of my voice, like pretty much like this is an attack on like white males or white people, because I've realized that a lot of like white individuals that don't get it, they feel like even when African Americans are talking about some of the equities and they mention like white privilege, they feel like, yo, I didn't do anything. I was just born white. And they don't understand. I think there's a lack of understanding of what white privilege is. And, you know, this common thought, like among a lot of people, be like, wait, well, we all were born with the same 24 hours? Like, I was listening to this one guy, he was like, yo, white privilege is nothing but good choices. It was like, well, if you guys didn't have kids early or like before 18, or if you guys didn't get a record, this and third, but they don't realize like there's certain other socioeconomic factors that actually go into these things happening. So, you know, I like the lack of understanding of white privilege, and how, like, you know, just systemically that's built into laws, is built into like shit. I mean, gentrification is one of those things that's really a byproduct of that. Separating people, moving people out of their communities, and really just, you know, decentralizing them. When people don't understand that, it seems like you're just kind of like blowing a lot of smoke. They're looking at you like, damn, what more y'all motherfuckers want? Right. But again, there's a lot more to go. So like when people hear like, yo, like for what Wayne was saying, Ben and Jerry's was saying, we have to dismantle this system of white privilege, right? That's built into our laws. Like a lot of people are like, what the fuck? Like, we got the best laws in the world. This is the land of the free and the home of the brave. The fuck you niggas talking about? You know what I mean? But again, there's a little bit more there. And until that common understanding happens among everyone, that we understand what those things are, we're going to be arguing two different points.
Right.
Absolutely. Well, we're here to inform, right? We can do this all year, guys. We're here to educate and help. And
I want to get back to the music soon. I ain't gonna lie.
We'll get there, but we're still gonna, you know, not every episode for the rest of the year is gonna be entirely about this. It's very important right now, but I do hope, and you know, if you guys are with it, that on every episode we could try to do our parts, man. Like, elections are coming up, the primaries are starting right now. If we want to affect change, we have to be part of it too. And you know, it's not just about white privilege. It's like within the Black community too. I think a lot of people are still trying to figure out the right way to respond and help. And unfortunately, some people have been dealing with a bit of backlash. Like Trina, for example, we saw it happen to Virgil. So she made some comments on her morning show where she referred to the protesters as animals, saying that they acting like they escaped from a zoo, locked them up at 5 p.m., which is curfew, so the streets could be nice and clean. But then she does go on in the episode, I want to say this, to note that half of the protesters are not even marching for George Floyd and are being malicious. Tyler, the creator, had one of his stores looted out in LA, and he said, the store is fine, but even if it wasn't, this is bigger than getting some glass fixed and buffing spray paint off. Understand what really needs to be fixed out here. Stay safe. Now, of course, like Tyler could afford to fix his storefronts. There's some Black business owners who can't. They're already hurting because of the pandemic. So there's a lot of mixed emotions right here, but it's important to point out again that most of the protesters are peaceful and they really are marching for justice. And then those assholes I saw pulling up in luxury cars in New York to loot, you know, the fancy stores in Soho. So it's just really unfortunate that they're sort of marring this movement.
Yeah, there's a difference between the protesting and the looting, and I think that people are thinking that they're running concurrently or running one and the same. And for Trina to say something like that shit was just like super off the wall. Not even just the whole thing. Like, what I can't understand about Trina is her being a Black woman from the South. You know, I mean, in the North, yeah, I've dealt with racism on many different levels, but in the South, it's a whole different ball game down there. And for her to say something like that, like they're animals and lock them up, it just makes her look like she cooning. You know what I'm saying? It makes her look like the same system that we're trying to fight, that they got an agent. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how I feel when I hear certain shit like that. So she needs to educate herself on what's really going on. I don't know if she is. I'd like to give her the benefit of the doubt, but that shit was just super ignorant for her to say, especially at a time like this. And what I can't understand is, for everything that's going on, how do y'all keep slipping up saying shit like this? Like you too responsible as a person and as a voice to be blurting out uneducated statements like that.
Let's throw our ass on the same list we throw Lil Wayne on. Mute, okay? We don't need to hear from you during times like this. You ain't got nothing constructive to say. When it's time for jokes, giggling, he's, and, you know, all that tap dancing shit. We'll get y'all out of. We'll start turning the volume up on y'all when it's time to make some hit songs and time to celebrate all type of shit that, you know, distracts us in life. It's your time. But right now, them niggas never have nothing. You know what? They see life through a different lens. And I hear what you're saying, right? She's from the South. You know where she comes up from. Like, her upbringing, like, you can't even understand it. But I'm telling you, wealth do kind of make people look at shit differently. Because they feel they're being treated differently because they're in a different class. So almost they start forgetting that they're black. Like, she said, so let me clarify two things of what she was saying. Right? So when she was saying that, yo, her friend's store got looted, and she was like, yo, lock him up. I think she kind of correlated that with the protesters, because we do have to acknowledge there are groups of people that are going to places to loot.
Right,
not to
absolutely.
protest, to loot. And by the way, you know, I have really mixed feelings on people policing their own community, because we've seen, like, in certain neighborhoods, I've seen a video in Long Beach, they were checking everybody to say, yo, if you not from around here, don't come around here, come loot. You know why? These are businesses that could hire us later on. Like, this is our little community right here. Don't fuck everything up for us, okay? In Detroit, they're saying, yo, go back to where y'all from, because we'll handle the protest in here. Y'all don't know what these stores and these streets mean to us. Let us do it. And I think those people are completely right. But the way Trina's saying it like it's all protesters, right?
Right.
But then her second part of the statement makes it even worse. She says, wait, I don't have those problems. When the cop pulled me over, I have my license and registration. Right. I'm like, oh my God. She doesn't understand the black experience. The fucking, like, if you're not having a shared black experience if you can't understand, and maybe it hasn't happened to you, but understand that fear, that thought, that mentality just going into a traffic stop with an officer. If you can't even identify, but like, she was so snobby with it, like, well, why would I got to fear the cops? Like, I got my license and registration, I got my Bentley.
Sandra Bland had her license and registration too.
100%.
You know, like,
so I think that's why some of these celebrities who get to be, they feel like, you know, their wealth has now bleached their skin. They start to say, yeah, that's some broke nigga shit. Like, y'all, because y'all probably driving those. She's thinking of the only things that fucked up shit only happens to individuals who, Wayno, you only got your ass beat because you had a suspended license.
Right.
Yeah, you ain't had this documentation. You know what I mean? No.
Like, but like a suspended license warrants an ass whooping. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
bingo.
That shit is.
It's just weird because, I mean, even if it's not happening to her directly, you still have black family and friends, don't you? You don't worry about your cousins, your nieces, your nephews.
Hey, I was so surprised at Trick Daddy. And Trick Daddy, he a funny motherfucker. And sometimes he could be, I don't want to say ignorant, but sometimes he could be on some shit.
Yeah.
He was the voice of reason, trying to talk her down like, whoa, chill, you're wildin'. So I'm guessing that was fueled straight off emotion and anger, but it just came across wrong.
But that's crazy because look what Trick Daddy just went through a situation with the police like 2 months ago. Remember when his mugshot came out and all that shit? Like, he just went through a situation with the police, and that's one of her closest friends, the person that ushered her in the game. So it's like, I don't know, man.
And by the way, this is my last thing on this. Most of these super rich niggas, when they broke, they Democrat. By the time they get rich, they with Trump. Trust me. Just start listening to their words. Like, if a nigga told me Wayne voted for Trump, I'd be like, sounds about right. I'm telling you, man. Because at that point, that black shit goes out the window. They all think they're bleached. And they all start looking at it like, damn, how do I protect my millions? And, like, that's all they think about, I'm telling you. Clearly.
Yeah, I mean, okay. It sucks. Like I said yesterday, guys, it's not about being Democrat or Republican, you know. It's not. The reason we dislike him is not because he's a Republican. Period. He's just not a good person, and you could see that. It seems like his actual intent is to divide the nation. It doesn't really make any sense. But anyway, before we get more into that, now seems like a terrible time to release new music. I know some artists have definitely postponed projects that were supposed to come out this week, and this might continue for a while. But in the meantime, Kendrick Lamar's album To Pimp a Butterfly is back on the Apple Music charts. Now, that dropped in 2015. That was around the time, so this is about a few months after Michael Brown was killed in Ferguson. It felt like the country was on fire, sort of like it is right now. It was just protests all across the country. We kept seeing cases of police brutality. So I guess it's not surprising that people are going back and listening to that music right now, looking for some comfort.
Right. It's that's around the time I think Freddie Gray passed away as well. You know, what's crazy about this is like, because of the way things are in this country, we'll always have a soundtrack for this type of shit. You know what I'm saying? Like we'll always have something that we can listen to or defer to help us get through these times, and that just speaks to how great Kendrick is as an artist. You know, making an album like that, it was really risky, especially with what he did with Good Kid, Mad City, and what people expected him to do next. You know, I think it was really, really courageous of him to even put that type of music out and put that type of message out, and it still resonates. So it was like, you know, everybody, yeah, of course we do want a new Kendrick album. So, you know, I do. It's been 3 years, but he did leave us with a lot that we could always go back to.
What Kendrick at? I mean, not that he needs to, because I see some people like, yo, like,
yeah,
you require a lot of these entertainers. I do wonder where he's at, and you know, as we're looking at everyone put out statements and stuff like that, you know, it would be nice to see him. However, I will say his music in times like this, we actually realize why he's so great of an artist. You know, like his music when he dropped To Pimp a Butterfly, I thought it was, you know, I thought it was the best album that year. I didn't think it had too much replay value though, but like it had super important songs that was it had messages built in that wasn't just for just entertainment. It was, you know, very strong stuff. So to see, like, you know, popping up on the charts, back on the Spotify charts, it's, you know, it's probably back on Billboard Top 200. I think it's very dope, and I think just going forward, if you're gonna drop music, at least in the interim, definitely for this week, you gotta have some substance. You know, salute to Run the Jewels. They actually moved up their project. They talking about some shit. We do need soundtracks for this stuff. You feel me? And again, for all the people who are poets, who are artists in any type of way, shape, or form, you know, if they could add on, because you got to realize art is something that helps propel these movements, and it actually magnifies voices. The reason why a song like We Gonna Be Alright is number 11 on Spotify's daily charts yet again is because that song amplifies the chance of millions. And again, we need music like that. Right now, the bullshit, y'all gotta chill. Like, take 2 weeks off, and, you know, it's unfortunate for, like, artists like, you know, even Gunna said it. He had a number one album. He can't really celebrate because of what's going on. Yachty dropped in the middle of that, pretty much, you know, everybody's shifting their focus. So I think everybody's realizing, back up if you're not on this type of code for the next, like, while.
Right.
Absolutely. But it does give them a space to, you know, get active in the community and still be out there and reach their fans. And I want to say shout out again to all the people who have been out there protesting. It's been a very emotional couple of weeks, and I know some people do want to get back to us talking about the music, but I've also gotten a few messages, you know, from viewers who appreciate that we're taking the time, you know, to talk about this since they're out there doing all of the important groundwork. I hope you guys hang in there, stay positive, keep fighting, and, you know, try to find a way to enjoy your weekend. And we'll be back here Monday on Everyday Struggle.